My mama told me that I need to get up and I need to get my out the cap. She said if you ain't gon' get to this money, then you need to get your out the house. She said if you come up in here without a plan, boy, without a check in your hand. I got the message, she was spread thin, so I had to expand. I am the monster that listen a lot. I send some children that shoot up your shop. I give your lady a part of my movie.
What we're doing here is just priming. So these aren't taken to failure. They're not that heavy. I'm just priming my pec. The next thing we're going to do is a heavy press. But I will try and move this movement forward. So I'm not just going to leave it on the same thing as we go through this period of time. I'm still going to try and progress it. There's still some progress to be had there, right? We still want adaptations to work out. But I'm mainly thinking about driving my elbow across, driving my biceps together, and just contracting hard so I can really feel that muscle when I go into the press. So that's going to be lesson number one. We're going to do this in the same format as that leg session a while ago. Where I just want to take you through like key points of training chest. So number one is like prime it. That's the same with any muscle really, but particularly like upper body muscles. So the chest, if you struggle to contract your chest, do a movement that's like a flying movement. Think about just bringing that elbow, adducting that elbow. That's the main function of the chest in a horizontal plane. Think about driving the biceps together. Think about squeezing the elbows together. Forget about your hands. And then spend time in the range that allows you to connect the most. So for me, when I'm stretched right out, I can really feel my chest. And when I'm completely shortened and that's completely contracted, I can also feel my chest really well. So that's where I'm going to spend some time, prime it, and then we'll go into a press. So obviously we've done priming. Now we're moving on to a heavy movement. Risk to reward ratio becomes higher. We're going to take a bit more time warming up. What I tend to do is like talk about it in terms of feeder sets. So I've just done 8 reps on 20 kilos a side. I'll do like 6 on 40 kilos a side. Then I'm going to start reverse banding it. Just because if I'm putting a reverse band on it while I've got 20 kilos either end, it's not going to do anything at the bottom. I'm not really warming myself up in that full range. So we'll warm up here and then I'm going to put the band on and I'll show you what the appropriate level of banding is as well. So I guess point 2 is how to warm up and how to set up a reverse banded press. Right, I don't think you can cover this too many times. This is how I reverse band a Smith machine. So I'm going to loop the band under the bar and then you've got like a little U here. I'm going to stick the daisy chain through there and then over the top of the machine. You want it to kick in my opinion, at about halfway down. So too early, and obviously you are just making the movement really easy for yourself. Too late, and you're not going to be doing, the band's not going to be doing enough. So you'll see that once you've got it set up correctly, as it comes down, it's going to kick in about halfway down the rep. Make sure you're still controlling the bar as well as it's coming down on the band, because you don't just want to be then giving it all to the band. And you'll see people bounce out the bottom. You still have to control the bar. You still want to be controlling the weight, so watch and learn. Okay, so that's kind of all the like warming up and priming done. I'm going to move into my top set now, which as you'll be very familiar with, I'm sure. There's only one of 6 to 8, and then my back off set will be 10 to 15, 12 to 15. And as I said, just watch for the setup. So a few things to bear in mind is when you're pressing, you want your elbow directly under your wrist. You don't want to be pressing in like this. That's obviously going to put a whole load of pressure on your joints, and you're going to be in quite a compromised position in terms of strength. So always look to line up with the line of pull or the path of motion. So the obviously bar wants to come straight down to the ground, so you want to be directly underneath it with your wrist and your elbow joint. And then in terms of depth, it's going to be about active range of motion. I try and come down as deep as I can until it's uncomfortable. So you'll see I get pretty close to my chest. Some of you will be able to get all the way to your chest. Some of your active range of motion won't be enough. So you have to assess that. You just want to bring your elbows back as far as you can until you're met with resistance from your body, okay? So if I come back, I can get about to about here before my body's like, now I'm finally into my body to get any further. So you'll see that in the set. So cues for pressing. similar to what I was talking about on the prime movement, the fly. I'm just really thinking about driving my elbows to that midline. So forget about your hands, forget about your chest somewhat. Don't forget about it, but you just think about doing what the chest is there to do, which is horizontally adduct the elbow. Drive your elbows across the midline. Drive that bicep into the side of your chest. You're going to contract it very well. And just make sure you control the eccentric. So many people, I think it's an old thing, my stepdad does this, just drops the bar to his chest. I'm like, mate, firstly, you're missing out on a whole load of work. Secondly, you're going to bloody injure yourself. So control that eccentric. 3 seconds on the way down, 3-4 seconds down. And then think about it, engage, and then drive back up, and you'll be good. So in terms of structuring your workouts, with push in particular, obviously stability is a massive thing. So obviously I'm following my coach's program. But when I'm programming, if I'm going to put a less stable movement in someone's plan, so like a dumbbell press where they have to stabilise a barbell press, less likely, but I do like a dumbbell press. I put that at the start after it primed, and then I'm doing something more stable. So obviously this is completely stable. You still have to stabilise, but obviously the weight is moving along a fixed path. I don't have to worry about it going left to right, I just have to worry about pushing it, and it's going to go in the direction I want. So I'm doing this next. We're also working in different planes, so obviously the Smith saying was like a fixed plane, fixed vertical plane. We're now going to be working in a convergent plane. So what I mean by that is, as I push in, the handles are going to come together. So the resistance that is being applied to my body is going to basically drop off. The moment arm is going to become more minimal. It's going to become closer to the shoulder, which is where the chest is working. So convergent path, it's going to drop off as I get to the shorter position, which is obviously the opposite of what we've just done. I feel like I should make a very obvious point whilst here. While you see me plugging things into my phone, for those that don't know, this is my logbook. So I've got Rep Count is the app I'm using here. You can use your notes. I'm sure there's loads of other apps you can use, but for God's sake, just make sure you're tracking your progress. This particular app has space for load, reps, and notes as well. So when I'm on the reverse banded incline Smith, for example, I know where I've got the daisy chain. I know what loop I'm using. And I can even write down, for example, what brand of kit I'm using. So if I do Cybex this week, but I go somewhere else and I use hammer strength for Atlantis, I know that they're not quite going to be equal in terms of progress. So it seems really obvious, but I know some people still aren't paying attention to this. So make sure you are, because if you're not, how do you know you're getting better over time? Unless you just go, it's in my head, mate. Write it down. Simple. Second set on here. Again, we're in a fixed environment, so it's very safe. I'm going to just milk this for reps. I'm really quite bad at working in those higher rep ranges. So don't forget that we've seen studies where hypertrophy occurs up to 35 rep maxes. 35 reps. It's a huge amount of reps that I bet you never go to. I never go there. I'm not going to get anywhere close to that here, but I'm going to aim for a 15 to 20. I might fall short, but we just got to make sure that we're working across all those ranges. And this is going to be the final press. Obviously, I want to absolutely milk it. Then we're going to go into a fly. All right, that's us done with the heavy pressing work. So we're going to move into a clavicular fly now. A few reasons for this. Number one, it's going to really target the upper chest. I said this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. There is no better movement, in my opinion, for targeting that clavicular section of your chest. You can't isolate your upper chest. So if you think you need more upper chest, you need more shelf flight, you can't isolate it, but you can bias it with a movement like this. So when I go into it, you'll see the path of motion is going to be cutting straight through my clavicular fibers. What I mean by that is the line of the cable. You'll be able to see that the plane it's moving through would literally align with my fibers there. It's also going to be used as a cuff, so it's going to be even more stable. We're going to move that point of application closer to the joint. We're going to reduce internal joint pressure, but also, as I said, with a cuff, you're going to find such a good connection with its movement. And in the past, I've done it first, but we're going to do it now after the press-in, with fatigue from the press-in. So now we can just milk the pecs with the fly movement in a very safe environment. Right, I'm going to set up the clavicular fly here, obviously using Mr. Bridgman's cuffs, which are very good and probably the best you can get. In fact, I will say they're the best cuffs in the game, but they're still not big enough for me, unfortunately. So I have to use this nylon sling to make sure that I can stretch it out even further to get around my fucking massive arms before anyone asks. Fucking can't take myself seriously, so. So some important points for that movement. Because of the placement of the cuff, obviously, your wrist is taken out there, your elbow is taken out there. What extends the elbow? Your tricep. So you kind of, as best as you can, you're removing your tricep from that movement. You know, when you're pressing, you'll find that you're using a lot of other muscles other than the clavicular fibers of your pec and your pec fibers in general. So all I can feel working there really is this area. So I don't doubt that there's some delt involved in there, but so much pec going on. And that is why I call it the best chest movement, or the best upper chest movement you can do. So make sure it's in your program. Even if it is an absolute bitch to set up, get a partner. Should talk a little bit about volume. I think volume is a very hot topic at the moment. There's obviously a lot of talk about progressing your mesocycle with volume rather than just load, rather than just loading the bar, rather than reps. We can actually look to, and this is something really that coaching is about. So I've got various different athletes, right? And they have various different needs. Some need much bigger delts, some need much bigger legs. Some have much bigger legs, but they need much bigger delts, and they can recover from loads of delt volume. So I've had one guy, Aled, who's going to be competing with the Tubos Federation later this year, the weekend after next. We had him in his off-season up to hitting delts up to 4 times a week. 4 times a week, that's like every other day. And what you'll find is that you can recover completely differently to someone else. You'll find people that only need 2 or 3 sets of legs a week. You'll find people that need 2 or 3 days of legs a week to grow. So it's about judging that. And that's what checking in's for, isn't it? That's what coaching's for. Because these aren't necessarily the things that you would notice. Whereas it's my job as a coach to see, okay, my athlete has had no muscle soreness for like 7 weeks. What's going on? There's obviously room to push volume up there. So that's what we're doing. And the reason I'm talking about that is because in my last sort of period of improvement, I think I hit my delts 4 times a week as well. So they'd be on both push days, both pull days. Only a little bit, 3-4 sets, but enough to elicit some hypertrophy, elicit a hypertrophic response, and have them adapt to something, which is what we're trying to do ultimately when we're trying to grow. So that is how I tackle my push sessions. Chest in particular today was obviously chest focused day, as you can see. We just finished with a bit of delts there. I'm going to finish off with some arms, but that's not what this video is about. If you want a bit more of an insight into my training, the training guide is still going. It's still very relevant for what I do. So hypertrophy training guide, £49. It's in the description. That gives you a full rundown of all my training, not just my push days. So jump on that. And as ever, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Any questions you've got, put them below. I'll do my best to answer them. And we'll see you in the next one.